darn hard, right? I mean, who can't whip off 5,000 words of an awesome short story that will hook readers into absolutely loving your writing and willing to shell out money to buy the next full book? Okay, maybe that does take some skill. If you're a fantasy author, then you've come to the right place. My name is Autumn Burt, and together with Jesper Schmidt, I host this channel. Between us, we have published more than 20 novels, and our aim is to help you in your writing and marketing endeavors. Just because you've written a novel doesn't mean you can whip off a fantastic short story, or vice versa. In my previous video, I outlined the steps on how to develop a novel, but short stories are an entirely different beast. But they are so useful. Short stories can keep your readers entertained while you write the next book. They can be given away as freebies, used to vet new story ideas, or as a reader magnet to hook people into the next series. That is, if you can write ones that are good enough and don't eat up all your novel writing time like Maverick Trolls raiding a Dunkin' Donuts. Experience can teach you to write a great story, and that's just what you have tons of, right? Lots of time to learn the art of short stories while working, walking the dog, spending time with family, cleaning the house, laundry, mail, bills. So what do you do if you don't want to sink an epic amount of time to learn to write something that is supposed to be a lead-in for your novels? This is just what I wanted to do when I wrote the prequels to my post-apocalyptic series. It was to be a set of short stories that touched on pivotal background events to episodes in the novels, while also showcasing the characters. And I figured I'd written 6 books at this point. 10 short stories? Not a problem. Then I sat down to write them, and oh my gosh, not so easy. I usually describe it as paddling in circles in a puddle of words. Short stories are a whole new ballgame, but I persevered because it's something I wanted to do, and just one of those odd people who, when I find out I can't do something, I just have to learn how.
I will never understand you worthless humans.
That is because whoever code created you didn't have emotions written into it. Glad you could butt in, old McGrumpy. He is our resident AI co-host, whom we seem to be stuck tolerating.
Short stories are only a few thousand words. How hard can they be?
Well, technically, short stories run from 1,000 words to 20,000 words, or thereabouts. When I was writing them, I was aiming for 5,000.
And you were having problems. That is pathetic.
Someday, I will delete you.
Not possible.
Now that he is gone, I have to admit not being able to write a snappy and comprehensive short story in a couple of days actually really bothered me. Pathetic might be too strong of a word though, but I persevered and learned quite a lot. Now I write a monthly short story for the readers on my mailing list. I use them to vet out new storylines or revisit favorite characters and places, or even help develop aspects of characters. So do you write short stories? Or have a use for them? After the video, let me know what you use your short stories for or what you want to use them for in the comments. But first, there are some key tips I learned, and I'm going to share them with you. Number 1, start with action. So this is true with novels, but it is especially pivotal with a short story. You only have 5,000 words or less to tell an entire story. That is under 2 chapters for me if I'm writing a novel. I'm just getting going at that point, not ending things. And that is why short stories are so hard. It is an entirely different mindset. You need to grab a hold of a reader's attention and hold on to it, and you have to do it instantly. And so you do this by jumping straight into the story, so you don't waste time describing the world, emotions, political goals. Instead, the horse is charging the dragon, the evil mage is grabbing the magical ring, and the thief is cornered. Start there. Number 2, have a goal. I use this idea for everything, from a novel purpose to the point of a chapter is. But for a short story, this is pivotal. You don't have the word count to waste time. So figure out what the goal of the short story is, including its subparts, which we'll get to in a few moments, and then only write what fits that goal. Doing this will help keep you on track so that you don't waste time with dead ends or floundering while describing the clouds and the flowers when you need to be getting into the next scene. If something doesn't fit the overall goal, sum it up. just use a paragraph, a sentence, but you don't have time for an info dump either. Now we're on to number 3, have at least 3 parts or scenes. This is what I referred to in the last step. I aim for 5 when I'm outlining my story, and I even go as far as to assign a rough length for each scene, like around 1,000 words, which would make a short story of around 5,000 with 5 scenes. That's a decent length. Like I mentioned in tip 1, start with action. There's no time to worry about the world building or setting the scene. Start with the sword strike or the arrow leaving the bow. After that, scene 2 is usually some explanation of what is going on. Dialogue is really great in this one. The thief tries to talk his way out of jail by explaining his innocence despite being caught with the jewels. The quick lulls build of this scene to the crisis of scene 3, which needs a resolution in scene 4. The ending, scene 5, runs a variety of purposes. Wrap up the action, reinforce the reader's view of a character, or set the scene for the lead into your novel. Somehow things have to end and at least wrap up the major event of the story, even if not all the goals are wrapped up, which leads me to number 4. You don't have to wrap up all the detail. For short stories, it comes down to minimizing the word count while writing a gripping and emotionally invested story. I try to keep my stories under 10,000 words, and there's just no way to tie up everything going on in a world, conflict, relationship in that many words, at least while still writing sentences that convey anything interesting or comprehensive. So stick to tip number 2, having a goal. Wrap up whatever that is. Not every character will be introduced or described fully. Not every action needs to be explained. As long as the major theme is solid, a few blurry details won't ruin the narrative. The other part is that this is also a 10,000 or less word story. You don't need to mention a detail more than once. Trust the reader to catch it. A short story can be read in one sitting over lunch. You don't need to worry about the reader remembering something that happened tens of thousands of words ago. It was the previous page. Don't keep hitting them over the head with the same stuff. It is annoying and wastes words.
You are talking more about short stories than they take time to write.
Why? Have you written one since I started this video?
I have a plot but need to create a worthless human character. I can't think of any worth my time.
Maybe you should check out the website, McGrumpy. There are lots of posts on character development and arcs, and some great workbooks too.
Possibly an acceptable idea.
Well, that was useful, because we are on to tip number 5, and it is that the short story is about the characters and how events affect them, and not about the events. A lot of really bizarre, wild, terrifying, and wonderful things can occur, and the reader can care less if she can't relate to the character. This is especially true in a short story. There isn't much time for character building or a slow warm-up to like a difficult character. They have to come across fully formed with flaws, nuances, and pet peeves right on the surface. The inner personality needs to shine by the end of page 1, preferably within a few paragraphs. Short stories are the times for snap judgments. Do you like the character? Are they trustworthy? Is there more to their motivation, leading to potential revelation and some tension or curiosity building later? Once I developed these tips, I could whip off a short story in a week easily. Now it's down to a few days, depending on the length. For my mailing list, sometimes it's just 1,000-word flash fiction. Sometimes it hits 5,000 words, though it takes longer to write those. But the readers love their monthly short story, and it adds to the backlist available for readers. Eventually, I'm going to combine the stories from each of my series into a novella. And all the while, I'm exploring new potential novels, developing characters, and sometimes just taking a much-needed break from a novel that takes months. Stay safe out there, and see you next Monday.